Antigam Vandeham Sri Gurum Sri Yodapadagamala Sri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanidam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadodam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Sri Vishakhanyatamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sudhe Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyacha Kripa Sindhubhyeva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Pudala Srimad Swami Namne. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Pudala Srimad Shila Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namne. Namaste Saraswate Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pachatya Deshe Dharine Mukam Karoti Vajalam Bhangam Langhayade Girim Yatkripadamahmande Sri Gurum Dinadarinam Paramanandamadhavam Sri Chaitanyam Iswaram. So now we'll recite Bhagavatam glories, some of the verses. So we are reading from Canto 1, chapter 15, verse number 49 today. So, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Mudiret. Susrusho Sraddhadanasya Vasudeva Kadaruji Syan Mahat Sevaya Vipra Punyatirtha Nishevanat Srannatam Sakatha Krishna Punya Sravana Kirtana Tritiyandasto Hyavidrani Vidunoti Sukurat Satam Nashtaprayesha Putreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Sloke Bhakti Bhavati Naishtiki Tada Rajastamo Bhava Kamalopādayascha ye Chedayatayiranavitam Stitam Sattve Prasidati Evam Prasanna Manaso Bhagavat Bhakti Yogadaha Bhagavat Tattva Vijnanam Mukta Sangasya Jayate Vidyade Hrade Granthe Sthityande Sarva Samshaya Kshiyande Jasya Karmani Drashta Evatmani Shure. So welcome everyone for today's morning Bhagavatam class, and I seek your blessings to speak something meaningful today. We have so let us read the verse. Let me share the screen. Share screen. Share screen, and that is what is my there is my so one point. Okay. Sorry. Share screen and go to that. Yes. Can you all see my screen?
No, Mataji.
Okay. Now,
Now it's coming up. Yes.
yes.
Yeah. Now we can see.
Yeah, here is our verse for today. So, Viduropi parityajya prapase dehamatmana Krishnaveshena tachita vidrubihi sochayam yayo. Once more time. Viduropi parityajya prapase dehamatmana Krishnaveshena tachita vidrubihi sochayam yayo. So, the translation and purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Vidura, while on pilgrimage, left his body at Prabhasa. Because he was absorbed in thought of Krishna, he was received by the denizens of the Pitraloka planet, where he returned to his original post. So, purport. The difference between the Pandavas and Vidura is that the Pandavas are eternal associates of the Lord, the personality of Godhead, whereas Vidura is one of the administrative demigods in charge of the Pitraloka planet and is known as Yamaraja. Men are afraid of Yamaraja because it is he only who awards punishment to the miscreants of the material world. But those who are devotees of the Lord have nothing to fear from him. To the devotees, he is a cordial friend, but to the non-devotees, he is fear personified. As we have already discussed, it is understood that Yamaraja was cursed by Manduga Muni to be degraded as a Shudra, and therefore Vidura was an incarnation of Yamaraja. As an eternal servitor of the Lord, he displayed his devotional activities very ardently and lived a life of a pious man. So much so that a materialistic man like Dhritarashtra also got salvation by his instruction. So, by his pious activities in the devotional service of the Lord, he was able to always remember the lotus feet of the Lord, and thus he became washed of all contamination of a Shudra born life. At the end, he was again received by the denizens of Pitraloka and posted in his original position. The demigods are also associates of the Lord without personal touch, whereas the direct associates of the Lord are in constant personal touch with him. The Lord and his personal associates incarnate in many universes without cessation. The Lord remembers them all, whereas the associates forget due to their being very minute parts and parcels of the Lord. They are apt to forget such incidents due to being infinite smell. This is corroborated in the Bhagavad Gita 4.5, verse number 4.5. So, Krishnai Vasudevaya Deviki Nandanaja Nandagopakumaraya Govindaya Namo Nama Nama Pankajanaphaya Nama Pankajamalini Namaste Nama Pankajanetraya Namaste Pankajankriya. So, in this chapter, which is titled The Pandavas Retire Timely, we have been through many segments. First, Yudhishthira Maharaj is waiting for Arjuna's return from Dwarka, and he has been gone for a long time, 6 months, more than that, and he's very anxious for his return. He's seeing bad or ill omens about something that is going to happen, which is very inauspicious. And then finally Arjuna arrives, and he discloses the news of Krishna's disappearance from his earthly pastimes. And then the Maharaj Yudhishthira he loses interest in everything. He immediately enthrones his grandson, King Parishit, to be the king, the next in throne. And um, he discards all his royal garments, ornaments, everything, and he immediately sets out. He completely detached from everything and anyone. He starts out on his journey to the final journey to the north, as his ancestors used to do. He is following in the footsteps. Then we saw his brothers follow him. And yesterday we heard from our Mahabharata scholar Pandit Prabhu Sri Vallabh Prabhu about the Mahat Prasthan in great vivid details. So today we are talking about Viduras act, how Vidura disappeared from these pastimes of the Lord. Excuse me. First of all, we have to reflect on the situation, the circumstances in which Vidura took this, took his birth. And we know he is Yamaraj himself. So he was cursed by Manduga Muni because Manduga Muni felt that he said, you have made a mistake in punishing me thus for a childhood, act which I have committed. This is very unfair, unjust. So now you have to take birth as a Shudra. This is because Manduka Muni was afforded a severe punishment. And when he inquired from Dharmaraj, the reason, he stated that in his as a child he treated an insect with something like a razor-like blade of grass or something. So he was punished for that one. So for a mistake, so the sage's curse, in response to the sage's curse, and because of an apparent mistake made by Dharmaraj, he had to appear as a son of a maid servant. Maid servant meaning he was the maid in attendance. His mother was the maid in attendance of princesses Amba and Ambalika, who were married to King Vichitravirya. And now Vichitravirya left his body without heir to the throne. And Mother Satyavati invited Vyasadev for niyog, so that these princesses would get some progeny who can administer the kingdom in this thing. So we have heard that Amba was very frightened by the sage's appearance and his, she could not connect with him. She was simply closed her eyes. And Ambalika, she turned pale looking at him, his formidable appearance. And so both of them ended up having, the first one having the blind child, Dhritarashtra, and Ambalika got the pale one, Pandu. So between them, the Pandu became king, but he could not continue very long either. He was also, he also left his body because of a curse from a saint, from a sage. And so Dhritarashtra became king. The king and until when Duryodhana would be grown up enough to um, uh, sit on the throne. But and then Vidura became his counsel and prime minister. But Vidura, because of his being son of the maid servant, he could not inherit the throne, even though he was most qualified. I mean, his intelligence, and he was more qualified than his brothers, but he could not sit on the throne. Like Bhishma Deva said to Satyavati, among the three, Dhritarashtra is the one, who he has so much strength, while Pandu has so much knowledge about statecraft, whereas Vidura has his intellect. I mean, such an intellect. So Vidura was prime minister. Vidura became prime minister. So, and he took birth in Krishna's family among the Kauravas. So here Srila Prabhupada is saying, the eternal associates of the Lord appearing with him in his pastimes, and these administrative demigods like Vidura's appearance is different, because the eternal associates of the Lord do not take birth according to the laws of karma, or they are not forced to take birth here, because they are invited by the Lord to be part of his entourage when he appears and perform his pastimes. Whereas the demigods, or here in this case Yamaraj, he had to take birth. He took birth because of the curse that was on him, and he appeared as from a Shudra mother. So Vidura's personality is one of great illumination in the Mahabharata. Next to Krishna, he shines with his wisdom and virtue. So it is said that he had eyes all over. Because of his watchfulness, the Pandavas escaped from their attempt on their life in the house of lack. So Vidura would speak in code words, which Yudhishthira Maharaj could understand. So he took the warnings and escaped through, and he and his mother and the young brothers escaped through the tunnel. So like that, he guarded them very well. And here we have an interesting relationship between Vidura and Yudhishthira Maharaj, because Yudhishthira Maharaj is the son of Dharmaraj, and here is Yamaraj himself, or an expansion of Yamaraj as Vidura. So they have some natural affection for each other. So they have a very good relationship. So Vidura would counsel Dhritarashtra about everything related to the administrative matters. And when Duryodhana started to grow up, and he started to scheme and plot against the Pandavas, Vidura became very disturbed, and his counsel seemed to fall on deaf ears of Dhritarashtra, because Dhritarashtra was too much attached to his son. He wouldn't take it seriously, Vidura's thing. So here, Vidura could understand Dhritarashtra was not so much evil by himself, but by consent to his son and through his attachment. So he had to, he was in great adversity, because Duryodhana, how can he support the king when Duryodhana, evil-minded Duryodhana, brings up so many plans of his own to put the Pandavas in, difficulties one after the other. So it was Vidura had to pass on the invitation to Yudhishthira Maharaj. When he was on a throne, and he inherited the throne. That the king is inviting them for a game of dice. But Yudhishthira could see from Vidura's facial expressions, his emotions, that the purpose of behind it, he could sense it. But anyway, they came and played the game of dice, and there he loses his brothers and his wife. And during the disrobing of Draupadi, Vidura spoke against him. He really protested against that evil act, heinous act. But Duryodhana would be so stiff with him, and he would. And finally, when the war was about to happen, the war is about to happen. The things went on from one worsened. The situation very much worsened, and the war was imminent. And then Vidura invited a great sage. I forget his name. From the upper realm, who used to come, who he used to be close to, and because of his greater purity, he thought he may be able to give advice to Dhritarashtra and save the situation of the war. But Dhritarashtra would listen, but nothing will sink in his heart. So finally, the war is happening, and finally, our Krishna himself comes as messenger of peace, Shanti Dut, and Vidura is so concerned that now the Lord will be insulted in the assembly, the vicious assembly of Kauravas. So he tells Krishna, he speaks to Krishna. He says, "Why do you want to go there? They are very, very demoniac, and you should not risk going there." But Krishna wanted to make sure that the Pandavas tried everything possible before the war to avoid the war. So he said, "I am going anyway." And there is an interesting anecdote here about Krishna's visit to Hastinapur as messenger of peace. And he was invited by Duryodhana for a great feast, and and he arranged a great reception for Krishna. But Krishna could see his evil intention, that Duryodhana's intention was that by pleasing Krishna thus, he may be able to win him over to his side or something like that. Krishna suspected his intentions and refused his invitation right away. And there Krishna went to Vidura's palace, and his lovely wife was also a very saintly person. She was so delighted by the Lord's appearance at her house. She was not only excited and happy, she was almost flustered. And then she started to offer him some bananas, and she would peel the bananas and throw the banana back and feed him the banana peels. And Krishna happily accepted her devotion. in the form of banana peels and accepted that. He relished that. And later, when Vidura comes home, he is very sorry that he missed Krishna's visit to their home. And then he asked his wife, did you give him something? Did you offer him something? And she says, look, he ate many bananas. Look at the peels there. And there they see, both of them see all the bananas there and no peels left this side. So that is a very amusing incident. So then, finally, Vidura will speak in presence of Duryodhana that to Dhritarashtra, you have to check your son. He is very, very evil-minded and going against the dharma. So you will have to pay the price. But in the assembly, Duryodhana says, throw out this Dasiputra from this palace. Why is he here? And leave him with only his breath. He spoke so insultingly to his uncle. Vidura said it is time for him to leave everything in Krishna, in the Lord's hands. So he left his bow at the door and left for a very lengthy pilgrimage. He saw opportunity in it, in this situation. He was relieved of any Kshatriya duties, and he went on a long pilgrimage, enriching his spirituality, his devotion to the Lord. He was a great devotee. And we see in Srimad Bhagavatam his dialogue with Uddhava, and then later he met Maitreya Muni. So many conversations unfold, the story of creation, etc., between him and Maitreya Muni. So he is like, then finally, at the end of his pilgrimage, after 30 years or so, he comes back. He is a tireless friend of his brother Dhritarashtra. He comes back, and now the battle is over. Dhritarashtra is still in the palace of Yudhishthira Maharaja under the care of. So he speaks to him with a very, without mincing any words. He says, look at your position. You are accepting your enemy's hospitality and staying here. And Dhritarashtra, who is by now very old, he is he and Gandhari, he left the palace in the middle of the night, and Vidura escorts them to the Himalayas, and there Dhritarashtra meets with an auspicious end. So thanks to Vidura. Vidura is so saintly. He is so steady in his friendship with his elder brother. And then now at the end of the Leela, he leaves his body at Prabhasa Kshetra, and so it is he is met by the residents of, he is received by the residents of Pitraloka, where he resumes his administrative position as Yamaraj. So he is not like going to, he is one of the Mahajanas, Dharmaraj, serving the Lord in that capacity. So he returns to that position. So since it is 7:31 already, I will stop here. Please forgive me for any mistakes I might have committed. Thank you all very much for your patient listening. And any questions, comments, we'll be happy to have that session now. Thank you.
Hare Krishna Mata, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Guru and Gauranga.
Please accept mine too, Prabhu. I am afraid that you will defeat me some question. You are so
Yes,
expert
no,
on
Mata.
Mahabharata.
No, Mata. Don't. That is a wrong thing that I do. I shouldn't ask questions. Okay. The reason I was speaking up was it was wonderful. The whole narration that you gave was so wonderful. I couldn't take my eyes off even for, ears off even for a second.
Okay,
Uh,
thank you.
what I liked was when you mentioned the pastime of Krishna visiting Vidura's house. You know, uh,
Yeah.
the interesting thing is, we read in the various scriptures that Krishna doesn't easily grant devotional service, because once he grants devotional service, he gives himself up to the pure devotee.
Yes.
And this is a very good example where Krishna chooses not to go to Duryodhana's house, and
Yeah.
he doesn't even go to Pandava's house, but he goes to Vidura's house,
Yeah.
and when Vidura is not there, you know.
Yes.
So Krishna is always very difficult to predict,
Yes.
His leelas are so much. Thank you for explaining that leela in
Hare Krishna.
such detail. Thank you, Mataji.
Hare Krishna. I listened to a talk by our Chaitanya Charan Prabhu, Mahabharata characters, and that was a
Yeah.
very very nice Prabhu. And I was
Hmm. Yeah.
uh,
Yeah, Mata. Actually,
mm,
Chaitanya Srinadas, the Mahabharata characters,
mm.
I've listened the entire 74 or so episodes. It's
Wow.
so wonderful, Mata.
Wonderful. I felt inspired to go for more actually. Yeah, it is very nice talks he gives. Yes.
Yeah.
Very, very detailed and very illuminating.
Yeah, Mata. Yeah.
Mm, mm.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Thank you
Prabhu.
so much.
Thank you.
Correct. Correct.
Hare Krishna. So if no more questions, Lingaraj Prabhu, maybe we can end the class here. It's 7:34.
Okay, Mataji. Thank you so much. This was nice description
Thank,
about the Viduras.
thank you for the opportunity. Hare Krishna. वाञ्छा कल्पतरुभ्य च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय।
Jai.